The orthodox tradition of manufacturing or processing black tea was arrived at with care, accompanied by a scientific approach. Never was the cultivation or nurture of the tea bush a random matter or ever left to chance happenstance. Every action was born of will and strict planning at every stage of the production process. The tea bush flourishes where it is planted and can reach great heights, but for the sake of the industry and for the convenience in harvesting the leaf, the manageable height is uniformly maintained at no more than at the waist or chest of the one that plucks. What is plucked is just two leaves beside the emergent bud, the most tender shoots that appear above the surface of the pruned bush. Any other leaf or one more mature on the plant is unsuited for the generation of flavor in fine Ceylon tea. No wonder that the orthodoxy of Ceylon tea demands that nimble fingers pick every single leaf. No machine can replicate this precision, and it has been found that women have the mastery in this prescribed method where men are not as efficient. Picking or plucking the two leaves and a bud has also to be done at the correct time of day. Science plays its part at this point too. The polyphenols, the active ingredients in assembling the flavor and the goodness, come to the surface of the tea leaf by dawn, and not too much time must elapse in the day before the leaf is captured. Freshness can only be ensured if the plucked leaf is quickly dispatched to the next stage in the process, namely sorting and cleaning. Before the fresh leaf becomes lifeless and limp, the load is quickly spread on the troughs where withering takes place. This is an important segment in the sequence, for it is necessary for the leaf to be rid of a fair percentage of its moisture, or else it will spoil or even rot away. Once the moisture has thus been reduced, the still green leaf is subject to rolling. Where once this was done manually, in the present day rolling machines accomplish this process with ease and efficiency. Rolling is important. In this way, the cells of the leaf are bruised, though not mangled. Thus, the polyphenols are released into the bulk of the tea being processed. This paves the way for the next phase. Roll breaking, where the particulate size is reduced and separated. The green leaf, now somewhat reduced in size, is collected and placed aside for a stipulated time until oxidation occurs. This process is also sometimes referred to as fermentation, but what really does happen is a chemical change that now converts the green leaf to take on a very definite brown appearance. At this stage, the forming of the characteristic flavor of the tea is at its optimum. But even here, there is an exactitude that must be obeyed. Oxidize the leaf for too long and the flavor is irretrievably lost. The fermentation must halt at the precise point for it. Experienced tea makers in the factory know of this through years of experience and by way of an educated nose. The process is halted with the final process known as firing. This involves the browned or even blackened leaf being subjected to high heat generated in the furnace at the factory. This not only halts the fermentation, but also dries out the leaf while locking in the delightful flavor and aroma in the particles of brown or black tea. In the manufacture or processing of what is called green tea, the process is very slightly different in that the withering process after plucking the green leaf may be repeated to remove moisture even more. There is usually no rolling that takes place to break up the cells in the leaf. Instead, the leaf may be steamed or pan-fried. As a result, the oxidizing or fermentation process is precluded. This is why the leaf retains its green appearance and does not turn brown. After being steamed or pan-fried for a brief moment, the resultant tea leaf is then dried under hot air. This seals in the goodness of the flavor, while also retaining a little more of the astringency that one associates with the freshly plucked leaf off the tea bush. At that final stage of drying the green tea, some flavor or fragrance is sometimes added, such as jasmine petals, favored in the far eastern regions of the world. Orthodox Ceylon tea has also recognized grades. This has much to do with the particulate size. With mechanized sieves being used, the finest granular tea comes right down to the bottommost trough and is often called dust. Though dust, one must never confuse it with refuse, for it is certainly not refuse, but is just made up of smaller particles, and yet carries the fullest flavor and noble color of the tea. The tea, after grading, is quickly sent for packing in sealed containers, be they boxed or in multi-layered paper sacks. This too is part of the old tradition, and every batch of made tea is dated and the boxes stamped with precision, and the identity is carefully noted, while the all-important sample of the batch is also separately packed, signed and sealed. These are the very instruments that make their way to the weekly tea auctions in Colombo, the commercial capital of Sri Lanka. It is here that buyers are able to offer their prices for the varied teas that are brought to the market. In the overall, there is a system that has been established for more than a century that matches practical wisdom with efficient delivery of the highest quality. A venerable institution located at St. Coombs Estate in Talavakkale, way up in the central hills of Lanka, is the Tea Research Institute. Here, the finest minds are focused on the science and botany that contributes to this million-dollar industry in liquid gold. The treatment of plants, their nurture, the precautions against disease, application of fertilizer, and, in the modern day, the science of cloning outstanding subspecies and establishing nurseries for these cultivars are some of the matters that have absorbed the people at the TRI. In addition to the botanical research, there are other divisions that focus on harvesting methods and processes of manufacture that in turn have influenced the increasing use of state-of-the-art machinery and equipment in the factories around Sri Lanka. In many instances, the TRI have been involved in joint research with other institutions in the world that have an abiding interest in tea. Training is a very important component, and the TRI has been working in conjunction with the tea traders, the plantation agencies, and the planters themselves. Plantations around the country have an ongoing dialogue with the TRI, sending in samples for testing from the estates. These range from soil to tea flush. The utmost care is taken on testing and checking parameters such as MRL, that's maximum residue levels, which all go towards Ceylon tea being easily titled the cleanest tea in the world. Ceylon tea is an ethical tea. Sri Lanka adheres to the highest standards with due recognition of and abiding by legal rights and regulatory discipline within all the norms and guarantees demanded by the UN Global Compact, Eurogap, and other internationally verified standards. Agricultural practices also conform to these standards, ensuring a level of purity, cleanliness, and hygienic standards. The teas from Ceylon may well be considered the only ozone-friendly tea in the world.